Hey, I hope everybody's having a great evening. I am. First, before I get started, I just want to show you this. It was just sitting right on the front porch stairs yesterday when I went outside. Don't mind that. My skin's peeling from a little burn. I just said, okay, whatever. This is my shedding season. This layer of skin is so soft though, so I'm not mad about it. But anyways, anyways, I don't remember where exactly I left off yesterday, so I'm just gonna jump back into it and see where it goes, right? So I know I was talking about the Garden of Eden and how it started in Genesis, but just saying like how we know there's missing books out of the Bible, missing pieces, and then just revise words that's mentioned in there as well. And then I always said, Genesis is just an account of how it all began, like a witness statement. That it was just talking about genes, genetics, and let's see. Oh, and then like genies, like a genie. And then just saying like how with the genie has like the magical lamp, and then the lamp grants the wish, and then the lamp is the pineal gland, the stores, all that good stuff. And the pineal gland, is produced from the melatonin is produced from the pineal gland. Sorry, I'm trying to read my handwriting. And then I'm just stating some little stuff down here about the body too, because now I'm stuck on melatonin. Because then I was thinking about melatonin in itself. It slows down our blood pressure, and then it just helps us to fall asleep. Just like it's like it winds us down. So then I'm just like, in a way, is melatonin a way to control time? And that's just what I'm getting into here. Saying the body acts as an eternal clock, using light and darkness to control when you feel sleepy or awake. And then like the different signals that melatonin, it's like a sleep gate that signals when it's time to rest. And then this time to rest got me, because then I'm just thinking about sunrise and then sunset, and then like but within the body and how that operates, because as we know, like we are like a reflection of nature, the universe itself. Okay, so that's what just explaining with that. And then just trying to giving myself another visual representation. I was half asleep, so don't talk about my drawing. So boom, but this is the first thing that caught my attention. Well, one of the things that caught my attention when I was drawing the brain, I'm like, this looks like the earlobe. Like you turn it like that, that looks like our earlobe, or however you want to look at it, right? So then I'm just like, but then it also looks like a sleeping baby, and not just from my drawing. It does look like a baby in an infant position. And then I just got some starting to see marked here. So like this would be like the pineal gland, the thalamus, hypothalamus, medulla oblongata, the brainstem, the cerebellum, and then the corpus callosum. And then, okay, so this is just melatonin, what it looks like and how it binds together. Boom. And then I was thinking about like a computer light or the screen light or the TV light. They got the blue light and then a dark screen, and then all these other things happen, right? So then I'm just like, okay, but then thinking like what if melatonin isn't released from the body? Like, where does that go, or what's the process? Like, what happens when your body gets off of its time clock and it doesn't release its scheduled chambers when it's supposed to? That kind of stops your clock and, sends you in backwards motions there. But then just doing a little research here, just saying like, blue light disrupts internal clock more aggressively than any other visible light wavelength. So like the red light, blue light, that's what made me start thinking about the red, white, and blue again. Because like even when animals, if they see the police siren, we know animals have, some level of intelligence, but if they see those lights, like even they stop, and then they'll look like, like it's just like something that just snaps that alertness, like and it just like grabs it. But that's just like where my mind frame was at, where I was getting at with that. Shit. Okay. Yeah, so that's what, okay. I was explaining a little bit right here. So when the cells, the brain confusion, it confuses the brain like when you don't get the melatonin when you're supposed to. So when your brain gets confused, these cells detect blue light from screens, LEDs. They send direct electrical signals to the super. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce that right now. I got a little energy from this Coca-Cola, so I'm a little yeah. But from the SNN, so it's this word, the super chiasmatic nucleus, the SCN, which also reminds me like scan, like the scantrons, multiple choices that we used to fill out in school. So I'm like, I'm not gonna disregard that, but that's like the master clock, and that's within the hypothalamus, blah, 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 in there. Calm down, Jackie. But I'm just full of energy right now. So that's what I was just explaining. So that's like when you don't get the melatonin, you're sending bad signals to your master clock, like within the body. Because then it's like, hey, ain't it time for sleep? But they still up, da 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 da. So then the brain starts operating as if you're awake when obviously you're really tired. But that's just what I'm getting into right there. um. Okay. I kind of feel like I talked about this, but I'm just gonna just jump in here, right? So this is like one of my favorite equations in math. Like the second I learned it, like please excuse my dear Aunt Sally with parentheses, exponent, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction, and like with the order of operations. So what that told me when I first learned it, that out of like without it's saying please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, they was just operators, individual operators. And this was my mind like in early high school, kid you not. So I'm like, these early operators, they couldn't function by themselves, so they came together to form a sentence or form a phrase so that they all work together in a way that makes sense, that doesn't cause chaos to one another, because they all have a role. But I'm like, the order of operations, kind of help them assemble like law and order. Boom. But as I was looking at the please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, I started like, what words can I get out of that? So obviously sad, then map, and then like I started messing around. But then, because obviously I was thinking about the Garden of Eden somewhere too along these lines. uh Adam. So you can get ADM, right? Or like, but I'm not going to double the A, because if you double it, then it'll be like either multiplication or exponents, whatever, however. But that made me think. So I'm like, if Adam got two A's, and please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, you only can have one letter, because that's just what I was getting at with my name. Don't judge me. I was saying how many letters. And again, this is the same 13 letters from my first, middle, and last name. All put together makes up 13 letters. And I was just saying, like, what words that I can get out of my name. And I'm like, interesting. And then I'm like, okay, what other names is it with, like, within my name? And, I was just having fun with that. So, anyways, when I was thinking about Adam, I was like, that's a math formula. A formula, because I've said before, I just don't have the proof. I not like don't always have the proof to support my visions or my dreams, but I trust myself 100%. And the moment I don't, I'll let y'all know. But I was like, to me, this feels. I mean, but I had said beforehand, like, the human body was like a formula. Like there's a blueprint somewhere underwater in one of these nice little oceans that's got the human body blueprint to show like how it was put together. Boom. But anyways, back to Adam. I'm like, Adam got three of these letters, right? So I'm like, that's a math formula, the order of operations. So I'm like, so within Adam, there's multiplication, addition, and division. Now start thinking about the story of Adam and Eve from the Bible, and think about those equations. Those operations: multiply, divide, and then add. Boom. So then, of course, I can't leave my girl Eve out, right? So to me, in my head now, I'm like, okay, so Adam represents science. I'm sorry, math. And Eve will represent science. And then, like, right when I was writing out Eve's name, I said, hang on, E equals V, or E equals V times E, with E being energy, V being voltage, or V can be vibrations and frequency. So I'm like, Eve is science, or Eve is, like, represents energy, and Adam, math. So that's just me, my way of thinking now. So I'm like, that was like an interesting find. And I know, like, when I point like little things out like that, it may seem so freaking random to me, but it makes perfect sense somewhere. So what do we have here? Oh, I was trying to just map out parts of the brain as well too. So we don't really have to dive into that. That was just more so for me, and I had a lot of fun in here. Learned a couple of different stuff. Nice. And then like the butterfly effect gave me like another thing, because you got the butterfly in your mind. Once you look at it like this, looks like a butterfly, or it looks like an angel. And at any different angle, it can look like something else, a pair of eyes, like anything. So I'm like, that gives me, yeah, okay. All right. I think I'll be good for that one. Okay. And then this is pretty much just stemming off of this. But like I was explaining with angles, I just did it in a different angle. So I'm not sure why I was drawing it like this, but when I was drawing these lines like this, I said, oh my goodness, that looks like the corpus callosum from down here when I was drawing, but it's really up here, my bad. But I was like, that's what that looks like to me. And I'm like, I don't know why I just doodled that. So I was like, okay, I'm still thinking about the brain. But I just doodled all this. So it's supposed to be like a ponytail, the head, hair, however, the face, the body, and then the bottom half of the body. But in a snowman form. But as I was drawing this, and then, okay, I just put the chakras in here, because I always think about the chakras, and they always think about me. What does this say? Require even distribution keys to each lighthouse. Okay, so that's what I was explaining too. Like each chakra is a lighthouse, so even distribution within the energy. If you get imbalances, that's how you get like closed or blocked chakras, or imbalances, or physical manifestations that come onto your body and things like that. So it all starts and ends in the mind. So what happens in the spirit comes to the flesh. But then when I was drawing this, when I got right here, I'm like, the ear. Or, no, I'm sorry. But like on the head, that'd be the ear. But like inside the head, that's where the cerebrum is. That's why I was like, okay. But boom, the ear. So I was like, when you think about it, with your left ear and your right ear, like if you put on a pair of headphones and you can listen to, the same song, one song with two headphones in, you're not going to hear the same tones. You're not going to hear that same frequency or the same you're not going to hear it in the same tone or the same frequency. That's what I'm trying to say. Jeez. Let me take another drink. But okay, like I was saying, like you put on a pair of headphones, you're not going to hear it the same way. You're going to hear one pitch, like one at a lower like rate, and then one like at almost a slightly higher. And then that kind of makes me think, like, if in a way, if that's why we had our ears tested, our hearing tested in school. See, we had our hearing tested at a doctor's office for the physical, right? Then boom, in school, I'm not sure if this happened to everybody, but they come and pull you out of class, sit you behind like this dark screen thingy, and then I tap this button if you hear here, do this if you hear here. I lied on mine because I ain't know what the heck they was testing for, so I ain't say I heard nothing. Cause I ain't trying to be under nobody chart. And I just had that much insight, even from elementary school. I just knew better. Like, don't tell the truth about that. I don't know what they testing for. But anyways, so then when you think about your left ear, right? Your left ear, even though it sits on the left side of your head, is connected to the right hemisphere of your brain. So then, okay, and then the right hemisphere of your brain is, where pattern recognition, what I got, intuitive processing, and things like that come from. And then it's just the same on the right ear. Oh, what I say? meaning, recognition, pattern. Music is felt as an experience. Okay, yeah, so that happens through the left side of your ear when you listen to music. This is where you be like getting all emotional and feeling it. And then on your right side is when you be thinking about those lyrics, like, you know what? Yeah, I'm on that. I'm on that. And you be like, yeah. But anyways, But on the right side, your right ear is works in the opposition. So right ear is connected to the left hemisphere of the brain. This is where it produces like your thought, language. You analyze information. Where you have your conscious awareness, thinking, and analysis. So that was just, pretty much for me. And I feel like I talked about this yesterday. But we're going to keep going. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep going. And then, so, okay, again, with still the Garden of Eden in my head. Thinking about reproduction because the Immaculate Conception story. This was in my head. So this is what I've already said the Garden of Eden was, like IVF. And then we know, like, with the stories of, like, Sophia, and then, like, earlier stories how, women produce children without the need for a fertilized egg. And then this is just a process, the fecundate. Fecundate. I'm all over the place, but whatever. So this is just a process to fertilize the eggs, right? Or to make possible to become pregnant. So I was like, so in a sense, just thinking like from the mother-son perspective, the son stole the mother's egg and fertilized it, like not through sex. There's no violation, like besides like no biological violation, but as far as science, there was. Then you can do the same thing with mother and son or brother and sister. And that's just like where I was at with that. And boom. So then still thinking about like the added, because we know like, some people know like there were like mortal beings here. And then there's stories like otherworldly beings came, mixed natures with what was already here, and then created anomalies, like something that couldn't be controlled or predicted. So then I was just like, okay. So just going back to like the Anunnaki story, right? So you got the two people in the lab, Enlil and who was it, Nimra? Well, okay, you got the two people in the lab. Sorry, I'm starting to get tired from talking. So you got your science and then your medical professional. Boom. They mix their essences, but they only could like make mortal beings. But like, what if the mortal people that they were making had no motion, right? They couldn't move because they needed a spark. But before I get to that spark, this made me think of this. That dang on song. All of this has been inspired by some type of nursery rhyme. So it's like A told B and B told C, I meet you to the top of the coconut tree. So it's like A, B, and C left the group. So when you think from A to G, that's 1 to 7. So 1, 2, and 3 whispered and told D through G, whatever. But anyways, that's just the way I was looking at it. Boom. So I was like, okay. So it's like 2/3 of the numbers that left the group. And then that's just me working my math, 2/3 of 7. And then it got me thinking about percentage over 100, like the is and then the of prospects, right? So then I'm just like, okay, boom. So is used in existence, like to explain an existence or a presence of, and then is derives from like to be, from like to be, and it's a noun, like it's a present tense. And then of is like the whole of this equation, is the part of the amount. And then of is also an origin or a source, possession or belonging. So then I just gave myself another example. Then I remember like this is something I used to love doing in high school. It don't matter what subject it was. If I wrote out a sentence, I would pick out like each part the sentence so that I'll never forget, like, as long as I live, like, what's a verb, what's an adverb, what's a proposition, like, things like that. That's just something I always did to just keep my memory intact. So don't mind that. This is just me. That's me. So then, boom, back to still thinking about the Garden of Eden still. And I'm like, and I cannot stop thinking about like time, the time machine, how time works, how time flows, like how time just do anything, right? So I'm like taking it back to the basics of our origin with time is conception. That started our time, was the process of conception, right? So then it said, 9 months of pregnancy, right? So then I'm thinking like, if from 9 months, that's already 9 months of life already being counted, because that's how you're tracking like how which organs is growing and coming in, this, that, and the other. So I'm like 9 months is also 40 weeks, which is like, about 280 days. Then I'm just playing around with the words, days and days, weeks and weeks. So I'm like, what if the baby had to be in there for that long to either, keep it in the days and then weaken the spirit so that it'd be more susceptible to submit to what's already is here. But that's just me. That's just me. So then, anyways, so I'm like, when the baby comes out after the 9th month or 10th month, however it wants to be viewed, why does it go back to 1 month instead of continuing like 10, 11 month, 12 months? It goes back to 1 month. And then when you get to 12 months or 11 months, that's when the change happens at 12. And then it goes from month to year. So that was just my process. Like, why isn't that being counted? And then I'm just thinking, then I'm like thinking about the baby in itself. I'm like, okay, we know the baby, the placenta. Okay, so the mother, the uterus, I'll get to that. What is this? Oh, and then still thinking about elements of time. Like electricity is the element that's not being counted, I feel like, because I feel like electricity was classified under fire. But I think electricity is its own element in itself, that it actually produces fire, or, fire comes from electricity, from like friction and things. And then I'm just thinking about like, how is electricity even made? What two elements, the only two things you ever would need to make electricity: copper and carbon. Then boom, thinking about copper and carbon. Copper in our head, copper pennies, carbon, the nickel. My leg is itching. Okay, and the nickel. Then I'm just messing around with the heads and tail things right here. But the copper in our brain is the cerebral cortex. It's the cerebral cortex, right? So then you think about that as the sun. And then you think about carbon. The carbon is the pineal gland in our brain. So then that's why I have it here with sun and the moon, and friction. So I'm like, okay, I ain't gonna get into all that. If you can read it, you can read it. That's what I was just playing. The brain produces electricity as well. And this movie came across my mind when I was working on this. So I'm gonna have to go watch this, called The Last Dragon. Okay, so I'm all over the place on this page. Hang on. Okay, so yeah, so I was like, okay, so every race of people have a pineal gland, right? And because if you did not have a pineal gland, no matter how you got here, you would not have life. And then, just explaining from this, wherever is that, the pineal gland, the infant, that's life. No matter which portal you use to get here, you wouldn't be here without a pineal gland, right? So I'm like, every race of people, living things have a pineal gland, but not everyone have the thymus. And then I was just thinking about the thymus. The thymus is connected to the heart. And, there's where like your emotions, compassion, and things like that come from. It also regulates your sex, and it helps maintain your energy. It keeps like that shyness to you. like like that niceness, and like you're less aggressive. And then like I did a little more research, and it says like some being keywords, some lose their thymus gland by the age of 8. So then I was just curious to say, like, as far as like, science or biology, could that somehow, studying the thymus gland, into more deep levels to see, like, at age 8, could you possibly predict a psychopath or somebody who's gonna like lose sanity, like, or or have anger issues? Not so much as like violent, but someone who won't be subject to reason. So I don't know. That's just me, but and then like how to maintain the the thymus is the presence of carbon, aka melanin, inside the body, balances the thymus. Boom. So then that's why I said right here, it starts and ends in the mind, just as a replication of a day. At the end of the day got to end, sunrise to sunset. And then from sunrise to sunset, you have moments in between to experience the day. So then, boom. Then I'm over here thinking more in depth about the placenta. Because I'm like, first, when I first think of placenta, the first word I see it is place. So that catches my attention. So I said, what kind of place? But then also the placenta is like really like the first attachment for the mother and the child. They connect through the placenta first. And then so I'm just thinking about it. And then, okay. Then this is what is interesting about the placenta. So the woman does not have it until the embryo, or just say the seed, is fertilized inside of the mother. Because after the seed is fertilized, that's when the placenta develops after the seed is developed. The embryo seed is fertilized, and then the cells work together with the mother's uterus whilst linking the produced organ. So that's why I say, okay, yes, something came from nothing, because it was not yet there until the baby's seed became fertilized, right? That spark of life brought forth something that came from nothing, right? So boom. So that makes me think, like, in some cultures, if that's why people save their placenta and like all the like umbilical cords and things like that, and freeze them and do other things with them. I mean, it makes sense now. I get it after looking into that pretense of it. But then also I get the word palace with just TN left, and then TN reminds me of in Tennessee, and then palace is a royalty. And then I had said before, I had thought Egypt is Tennessee, but I'm really starting to think all of America is Egypt, because I found like 4 different states that lines up with what they say Egypt is, based on like the stuff that's there, the lost seas, or what have you, like geography wise. Alabama was like another one. So I was like, you know what? I'm starting to think this whole continent is, or, this whole place is Egypt. The whole damn thing. But anyways, another word that I found in here. Oh, so it was planet, wherever that's at. Oh, right here, planet. So place, planet, palace. So I was like, so like a planet with the placenta coming only after the baby seed is fertilized. So I was like, that's just like a planet forming inside of the universe, with the universe being the womb, and being a secret dwelling place where the mother and child can exchange O2, oxygen, nutrients, and waste. And then over here, just thinking more, and then, oh yeah, and then thinking about how that came to be, just like how the placenta grows within the mother. I'm like, just outside looking in, that looks like an intrusion or interference to the natural body state after the fertilization of the egg. And I don't know why I wrote blood, sweat, and tears, but on another page beforehand, I know I wrote sperm and blood was used in the lab in Garden of Eden. Mama was sweat and tears, but my blood, sweat, and tears. That sounds also like labor. in delivery, because that's all comes out. But okay, yeah, and then the placenta also keeps the, large the blood supply separate. But back to the planets. That's why I said a planet is a star. A star is in the sky, and then we also have stars in our eyes, like according to the saying, like you're the star in my eye. So then I'm like thinking about stars in the sky. So it's like a water above and below. So the water above would be the sky, below would be the ocean. On the body, the water above would be the eye, and then on the body below, your urinary tract system. Then I was like, okay, thinking about the sky and then the body and the ocean and the eyes, I said they all drain or have a drainage system. So I was like, okay, for the nature's, the sky's drainage system is rain, oceans flood, or produce floods. With the eyes, we cry or produce tears. Urinary tract, urinate. Don't mind that. These are my little inside jokes on here, okay? I have to keep myself entertained too while I'm having fun. And then just thinking about like inside the brain, the drainage, the Christ oil that departs or leaves, drains from the cerebrum and the colostrum down to 33 vertebrae and then back up into all that good stuff, right? And then I'm thinking about sky and eye. So I'm like, okay, for thinking of just firsthand for the sky and the eye, the first thing I think about is to see. A visual, a reflector, deflector, but vision to see. So then I was like, okay, with the sky, you got night and day. With your eyes, they open and close. And then with the eyes, we know they said it's the window to the soul. So then I was like, okay, if the eyes is the window to the soul, the window got to have a door if the body's the house, right? So that means we got more than one door. The mind is a door because thoughts can get in. Your heart's a door. And then your mouth is a door for breath and what you say. So what you think, how you feel, and what you say can open or lock up some doors within the body. And then with the sky, comparing it, I was like, the sun is the reflection to the portal or the star. What I was getting over here. Okay, yeah. And then the doors for the sky is consciousness, love, and truth. Both have windows and doors or portals or dimensions that allow you to both see and enter. And then words or the usage of words, the English language made it so. So what you say is. And then, boom, still thinking about a planet because now obviously you can see my interest is peaked. So then it's like, okay, so a planet essentially is just a celestial body, in which we know like celestial bodies, they come from the nebulas. And then like the nebulas I compared beforehand to the plasma. And then like within the body, the plasma is the fourth state of matter. And then like within the universe, the plasma is found like within the nebula, and then it's what produces the celestial bodies. So like the sun, the moon, all of those good things came from the nebula, and which here for the universe I'm just gonna call a source. Boom. So then, that was a mouthful. So I was like, okay, the planet is a celestial body. And then as far as celestial, I'm thinking of like a light. So I was like, okay, a light body. Boom. Then just thinking about the word celestial, and then thinking about the three kingdoms. I think it was like Joseph Smith or somebody who made this reference with the three kingdoms, with the celestial being the highest, terrestrial the middle, and the telestial the lowest. So thinking back from the placenta, something coming from nothing, I was like, boom, is that where the soul is come from? Because we know that women are the soul providers. And that's so many words and so many words. So it's like, so is that where the soul is right there fused with the spirit when the placenta comes to be? Boom. So I was like, so that can be seen like that's something coming from nothing, that's like a celestial or divine presence or being. And then, so the celestial can be compared to the head or heaven and compared to the mind. The terrestrial, which is the middle earth, physical life, the human experience is compared to the body, which is compared to earth. But as far as like the head, the mind, heart, and spirit, I compared it to the heart for it being in the middle, the heart of the operation, pretty much. But then, boom. And then the celestial compared it to legs. So you got the head, body, and legs. And then the legs I compared to hell, then compared to the spirit. So then this is how I just put it together. Head can function without body. Body cannot function without the head. Legs have no use without body and head. So the nervous system connects each region and sends signals throughout all of the body. That's how they all communicate through the nervous system. And then I was getting back into brain producing electricity. And then just looking at electricity as its own element. Like that's the spark of life, or that spark, the breath of life that brought what to be. Because when I was writing down the elements, okay, earth, water, air, fire, these all sound like the Avatar, right? If you've ever watched the show Avatar, right? It's but spirit is an element, and then that's why I added electricity as well. So I'm like, that's why I said like the body. So when you just got, so it's pretty much like awareness, reason, and then just like nothingness or just is, right? So, and that's what I was getting at too. Like, what if that's what they couldn't produce was motion? Because electricity is capable, like with the friction, of producing light, heat, magnetism, and motion. The 4 walks of life. But that's all I wanted to say as far as that. I think that's all I got so far. Yeah, that's where I stopped at. But I'm like, I don't want to lose my thought process, and then I'll really be all over the place. But I'm not done with this. This just like opened up so many other doors for me to go explore now, because now I'm just like really just interested in a lot of things. Like, okay, so we know, well, I'm just going to say like, father and daughter. So this is father, okay, mother, father, child, right? So they're trying to say like father, mother, daughter. So in the story that they concepted in the Bible was the father and the daughter made it and then had a child. So then, as we know, biology, well, how it should be like mother plus father equals child. I'm like, but what if like outside of biology, right? But like within science and physics, A and C made it and put inside of B. So, but if A took C's eggs, fertilized them, and then put it inside of B, and then B carried C's offspring. But that's just it. Like my brain be going to different things in different ways, different strokes for different folks. But that's all I wanted to share with today. I'll check back in at another time. I love you guys. Have a great night. And Ashe.